Thank you, Mr Speaker. Casting back to January 2013, the Minister indicated the shape of what this legislation would probably look like, indicated some changes in industry training and apprenticeships, and at the time the Greens said publicly that we sort of liked the general direction, the shape of what the Minister was indicating. We also noted that it was rather late in the piece, and that point has been made by the previous speaker, that the need for expansion in the industries to assure a supply of skilled labour, trained labour, was paramount, and in fact that was obvious at least 3 or 4 years prior to this Minister's announcement. It's unfortunate the government chose to sit idle while an obvious need was growing more urgent. Nevertheless, we finally saw the bill in September last year, and we looked at it, analysed it, took some advice, and with some qualifications we came to the House and voiced our qualified support for the bill. There were some good aspects to it, and I'll reference those in a moment. We saw 1 or 2 things that puzzled us, we weren't clear on. One of those, in fact, was the issue of skills leadership. We thought that, well, yeah, the government seems to be suggesting the ITOs will not have sole responsibility for this, but it wasn't clear to us where that responsibility will land. And we now know, of course, that responsibility lands in a black hole somewhere. Nobody carries the burden of responsibility for skills leaderships, and that's an untenable situation. But, sir, so now we, unfortunately, as are our Labor colleagues, of having to oppose a piece of legislation that we would have liked to support, that does some useful and good things, might have been a very good piece of legislation, but sadly misses the mark, misses the target, and will require amendment to bring it up to being fit for purpose in 21st century to meet our current needs. So one of the things we do like about the bill, to be relentlessly positive, is that it does remove age restrictions. Many apprenticeships, many discipline, skills, whatever you like, no longer require the strength and enthusiasm of youth. There are many trades, many situations in industry where people who are no longer young might usefully pick up skills, get qualifications and effect career change, because this is the era of career change. Very few of our students currently at school will have one career from the time they leave training, education, whatever, to when they get their gold watch. This is the era of career change. Retraining is valuable and critical, and it's useful that this age restriction will facilitate that. We like the fact that this is a unified piece of legislation, brings together a number of other pieces of legislation, and it's always desirable to have a single document that covers a particular issue or industry, whatever it might be. So we like the fact, and always have, that the bill prevents ITOs from owning PTEs. It obviously removes the potential for a conflict of interest, and that's as it should be. We particularly like the fact that it names particular groups who are identified as in need of particular support, currently Māori and Pacifica, and that's again a very well-targeted intention. We regret that the bill is silent on women. Clearly we know for a fact that there are way too many women taking apprenticeships, going into industry training, and we could put some effort into amending that and to putting that right. In a sense, this bill, if I recall correctly, the issue of who will get particular consideration at any time is tied to the tertiary strategy. Tertiary education and industry training apprenticeships are actually 2 separate domains. They have some crossover clearly, but I don't think it's particularly smart to link the particular support, the special cases, if you like, to whatever is written in the tertiary strategy. It would be better to have a standalone consideration of which particular groups in society would benefit from some particular attention, how we might attract particular groups, demographics, into industry training or apprenticeships, and I think that could have been a better move. But as I say, I do certainly support the focus on Māori. I, in the last few days, have visited a number of schools around Northland Auckland for another purpose. And you see these young, predominantly Māori students, you want for them the very best future. They're at great schools, their parents, their teachers are committed to doing the right thing for them, but they're also coming from behind the eight ball in some respects, in terms of distance, in terms of social capital, and anything we can do to enable those young people, empower them, put them into a position where they can get a skill, get some training, get a qualification, is only to the good. What do we not like about it? First, I should comment on some of the changes made in Select Committee, and there were some useful changes. The bill as drafted gave the Minister significant ability, capacity to impose or amend conditions on the recognition of an ITO, and the language got tidied up about that just to put some reins on the Minister, just to make sure there was some justification for what he or she might do at a particular time. The bill, again, is introduced, was seen to potentially give NZQA perhaps a little bit more sway in terms of governing ITOs than was appropriate. The Select Committee reined that in, made some language changes that will ensure that the appropriate level of authority is given to NZQA and no more than that. What we don't like, yes, it's been, again, some of this has been outlined by our Labour colleagues who are equally disappointed. The issues that yes, ITOs will have responsibility for developing and maintaining standards, for organising training, but the skills leadership function will simply fall into a black hole. The building construction ITO, building and construction is one of those skill sets which are so critical at the moment. We have a badly broken city which needs to be built. I would hate us to see us importing tradespeople when we have a large pool of unemployed and untrained youth. Skills leadership is in the building construction is critical to ensure we are doing the right thing. The BCITO came to us and pointed out that something like 90% of building companies in that industries are SMEs. They employ fewer than 20, and many of them employ fewer than 10 people. They are not of a scale where they can purport or pretend to undertake skills leadership. It is not their role or their function. I was very disappointed that the government chose to vote down the two SOPs I put in at the committee stage that would have remedied these two major flaws in the legislation. Even had they gone so far as to suggest that MOBI or some other government agency had ultimate responsibility for ensuring that there was a skills leadership being displayed, being undertaken by somebody, but we haven't even got that reassurance. So we can predict with complete confidence that in many cases that will fall off the edge and we will see a lack of leadership in developing the necessary training to keep up with changes in particular industries and particular trades. So the second major concern for us, of course, was the fact that public funding will go to private companies under the provisions of this bill. And we heard from the Minister this in deference to the great god of competition. And yes, competition can often be a very good and useful thing, but there are limits to it. And interestingly, I was at a presentation last night from a person who felt that, well, I'm paraphrasing, but in my view, he was suggesting that competition was a solution to all things. And in theory, it often is, but in practice, it fails badly. And that's what we'll see here. I was interested too that the Minister referenced the necessity for amending a situation based on a survey done in 2007. The ITOs have conceded that there were some shortcomings in their performance, and they have upped their game. They are performing better and differently than they were 6-7 years ago. And it's unfortunate this legislation is responding to a problem that was perceived 7 years ago, but has since been remedied by other means. We think it unfortunate, and the point's been made about Business New Zealand. They put two conditions around the proposition that public money should go to private companies for training. Neither of those conditions has been met by this bill. They will be as disappointed and as concerned as every other person, every other organisation, every other stakeholder in this legislation. So we will regretfully, in some regards, oppose this legislation. Its redeeming feature, perhaps, is that it will be easily amended and can become what it ought to be, a piece of legislation fit for purpose to ensure we've got the skills, the tradespeople that we need to build our future. Kia ora.
Mr. Speaker.
Colin King.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a